Hello there friends, we're the main stage of Katowice. Basically all the Blasts and Qualifiers were just a warm-up, now the real CS begins. Teams are fighting for one of the most prestigious tournaments of all. Today we'll look at the first results of the main stage, what pro players are saying about one of the best players of the tournament, Donk, and of course what's going on the stage itself. Without further ado, let's get straight to it. We shall start with the most discussed topic of the last month, Cloud9's lack of sniper. Many are already aware of these discussions, but analysts and talents have joined in. For example, here's what Banks says. I like Exile, his talent was undeniable, but something is not working here, and if it doesn't change, he's surely the one out for an OPER after the major. And then Nail joined him. Exile is pretty terrible since the new roster CS2. It's sad to see him so lost in the game. Some, for example, decided to launch whole disputes as Cassad on Twitter. M0NESY to Cloud9 is probably the most obvious move in the last few years. To which G2 CEO Pekka replied, he's not for sale, friendly suggestion to focus on your team for now. Cassad threw some crap on event. Friendly suggestion, try paying your benched players what you owe them. That is, for some, the transfer of M0NESY to Cloud9 is the most obvious transfer. It also looks like G2 is not paying JKS even though he's under contract. They basically kicked him quietly and also took the money, but this is not 100% confirmed. Anyways, if that's real, we condemn such behavior. Gonna go B? Hey, wait, stop, why did my ping jump so high? It's over 200, why now? Oh my god. Finally, a worthy solution. So, lots of you have been asking me how I lower my ping and lose all the lags and network stutters. Gear Up Booster is a ping reducer and it works. A lot of pros are using it too, such as Asian Jeff, Miro, Tickle, Zan and others. So, it's totally not bannable. Bros, this is a complete game changer. How low could you go? The lowest ping I had with Gear Up was 27 and that's amazing considering my internet connection. Can you go lower than me though? Leave your ping number in the comments below to challenge me. From now on, Gear Up is my MMR saver and I'll be using it for sure. But of course, most of the talk now is not about Cloud9, but about the new Spirit star, Donk. He made a lot of noise at the play-in of Katowice. Some people hate him, others are very excited. Here's what pro players and analysts are saying. For example, let's start with M0NESY. I would advise Donk not to stop playing the way he's playing now, not to overwhelm himself with unnecessary thoughts. Then he will continue to destroy. He plays very well. Just don't stop and believe in yourself. Don't lose confidence in yourself and everything will be fine. Sometimes it's very funny to listen to him scream because I understand what exactly he's saying at such moments, and in general it's just funny that he even yells like that. It's impossible to look at this without smiling. But some say that this annoys them and that Donk goes beyond all limits. I don't agree with them. It's great when players scream. This is esports, so don't offend Donk. He is enjoying CS and his first major tournament on LAN. But M0NESY's coach, Taz, doesn't agree. It seems to me that when I screamed it sounded a little different. When I screamed it was more intimidating, but when Donk screams, I want to say, dude, listen, relax. It's also about his size. His screams are bigger than his size. But if it helps him, I'm looking forward to the match against Team Spirit. The Brazilian legend Fallen also is delighted with Donk. I think he will be in the top 5 this year. He's that strong individually and he's always looking for new tools to help him. He's at that age where only CS matters at the moment. Another legend, this time French, Kenny, also supported the young man. He's fulfilling his dream and enjoying it as much as he can, spontaneously. You love to see it. Dug the jealous haters. They were joined by Alexi B, Device, Holzerk and Hoka the Talent and many more. In general, almost everyone in the pro scene praises Donk. Smuya generally believes that this young genius can be awarded the Katowice Cup right now and not waste our time. Thorin is also delighted. He says that Donk's debut turned out to be even cooler than M0NESY's. The only one of the few who decided to fight back against Donk is Blade. I think he's individually really good. Mechanically speaking, he's good. Not in terms of experience for sure, like decision making. I think he's doing aggressive plays, impulsive decisions, and it works for him in CS2 really well because you can swing and always have an advantage. You're running and people are supporting you from behind, or somebody's running in front of you sometimes. That's for sure his main strength. He's running and aiming really sharp. I don't think it's hard to counter him. I think if he faces a really strong team who challenge him aim-wise, in that case the other guy with experience have more effective decision-making. He has a great future, but I think the only thing he needs is to fix his behavior. Sometimes he's screaming really bad words at this stage, and it's weird. Very sad that nobody around can help him, to have good advice to say to him. They even praise him for doing this. This is weird to me. I would really like to advise him not to be that kind of aggressive, screaming. It's different. When Apex is screaming, it's a different thing. He's screaming bad words, and you see that he means this, actually. It's a dangerous road, I think. Blade was also joined by SDY, who has approximately the same opinion. Friends, what do you think about this situation, and Donk overall? Write your thoughts in the comments below, let's discuss. Anyways, the next news is a little unexpected, as M0NESY is disbanding their lineup. According to HLTV, they are leaving CS altogether. It's very strange considering that their composition is a worthy one. And a little more unexpected news. Congratulations, friends, we finally made it. Valve remembered about CS2 and released a major update. So what's new? The Arms Race mode has returned, although for now only with 2 maps. They also added a new case with a cookery knife, the one people talked a lot recently, and the first skin ever for Zeus. Valve fixed a bunch of bugs and errors. What's especially cool is that it seems like the picker's advantage was reduced, added a new type of main menu and a bunch of other new features. We will look into all this in more detail in the next video, since the news came out at the moment when this video was almost ready, but I could not help but say at least a few words about such an event. And the last news for today came from Perfecto's girlfriend. She said that he was being asked to leak the matches in which he plays.
Насчет того, что там кто-то спрашивал, узнают Илью или нет. Узнают, но тут есть пару минусов в том, что мы заказывали доставку из одного ресторана, и приехал курьер, молодой парень. Он узнал номер Ильи и говорит: «О, Perfecto! Типа, это ты?» И после чего он ему начал наяривать и писать в WhatsApp постоянно. Не, кому я нахер нужна, чтобы меня узнала? Он начал ему писать в WhatsApp и говорит: «Ты можешь, пожалуйста, слить матчи, на которых ты сейчас играешь, чтобы я мог подзаработать себе денег на жизнь?» Что-то такое. Потом он просил помощи, чтобы научиться играть в CS.
Well, now it's clear how Cloud9 lost to a top 120 team in the world and then they lost in the play-in match in Katowice, or why Perfecto peeked the enemy when there was 1 second left to win the match against M0NESY.
There's no more time! Perfecto gets it done and just needs to hide! Exertion's running in with it! And Perfecto is just hiding in the middle of the side. Exertion with a headshot! I cannot believe it!
Overall, this is the only explanation for how these 2 events could happen, so now everything seems logical. Well, okay, jokes are just jokes, and many still remember how Perfecto bought a machine gun at the request of a better. Well, and now let's move on to the results of Katowice, since we started talking about the matches. In case you missed it, the format here is as usual, 2 groups, 8 teams each, of which only 3 make it to the playoffs. And what can I tell you? This tournament is already full of surprises, and we haven't even reached the playoffs yet. Just look at who was among the first to leave the tournament: Vitality, Cloud9, and Rebels and Apex. As for Apex and Rebels, this is quite expected, although I can't really help but note how good the pulls from Rebels were. Let's start with the fact that, as I already said, they came here from the play-in stage, where they beat Cloud9, and they squeezed out 16 rounds from FaZe in 2 maps. Many teams can't do this, plus the guys fought with heart against Falcons. Overall, thanks guys, a very good run and good luck in the future. And what happened to Vitality? How did the top 1 team in the world, the current major champions, leave Katowice in last place? Maybe with the departure of the Danish trio, the winner's spirit also disappeared. Now I can say for sure that firepower in CS is far from the most important thing, since a lineup with such monsters as Zyvus, Spinks and Flames falls in last place. It becomes even funnier when you look at who Vitality lost to, and no, it's not some FaZe or G2, the top 1 team in the world lost against M0NESY and Heroic. These rosters were assembled only a month ago, or maybe just a little more, and I remind you that now it's, for example, in M0NESY, 4 poles plus Glaive. This is such a surprise, I'm even somehow worried about Vitality, but at the same time, it's very cool for Heroic and M0NESY. Good job, guys. It seems that these lineups have a future. Let's move on, and another team that took last place is the long-suffering Cloud9. First, they lost to m0NESY in a super close match. I have already shown you the decisive round where Perfecto needed to survive for 1 more second and Cloud9 would have won, but instead there were many overtimes which Cloud9 lost and dropped to the lower bracket. Well, and there they were already outplayed by m0NESY. It's funny that in this match everything was also super close, both maps ended with a score of 13-11. Cloud9 were just one tiny step away from the overtimes, which could have saved them, honestly. Look for yourself how everything happened.
3v3 retake deciding the fate of this game. Kraz now creeps in very deep within the site, but not deeper than they're ready for. Shot nailed from Perfecto. Bro still so far removed. Worried about more players on the extremities. They're all here. Warozorp chimes in with a kill. Can this be the turning point? He's got to get on the bomb. Electronic has won it with the spam before. This time it might let him down. Out of ammo. And Waro has robbed them. 13-11 as m0NESY claimed the 2-0. And they recover from that slow start.
Cloud9 definitely needs to sign up for lessons with Kerrigan to learn how to pull off those close matches like FaZe constantly does. But jokes aside, once again the team disappoints its fans. For the first time in his career, Electronic didn't make it to the Katowice playoffs. So far the team is doing badly, and with each defeat there's more and more talk in the community that the team needs new replacements, that Cloud9 needs a specialized sniper. And the community is probably right here. History doesn't know any champion teams without a sniper in their lineup. What do you think, friends? What's wrong with Vitality and Cloud9? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss. Let's move on to places 9-12. Here we have Eternal Fire, Complexity, m0NESY and Gamer Legion. I would like to specifically mention the Turkish Dream Team. I was extremely skeptical about this lineup, but lately Eternal Fire has been surprising everyone in a good way, from tournament to tournament. The Turks are in some crazy shape. They went 3-0 on Armor, closed BB Team 13-1, closed the Falcons 2-0, fought on equal terms with FaZe, and to be honest had a chance to close them out 2-0 if they had been a little lucky in the first Inferno, which they lost on overtimes, but in the end Eternal Fire lost to FaZe with a score of 1-2 and Navi with the same score. Moreover, in both matches the Turks looked very cool on the first 2 maps and then lost the third map without a chance with a score of 13-5. It's some kind of a curse of the third map for the Turks. So basically Eternal Fire deserves huge respect. I think if they don't lose their form, it's quite possible that the guys will perform very well at the RMR and we'll see them at the major. The next team here in the 9-12 place is Gamer Legion. These guys only scored a landslide victory over m0NESY, after which they looked somewhat lackluster against m0NESY and Heroic. Honestly, it seems to me that the team simply doesn't have enough firepower to compete with the tier 1 teams. Well, like, who should shoot there? If you open the stats of each player for the last 3 months, only Aker has the highest rating of 1.02. These are very small numbers for a tier 1 sniper, while the rest of the team has a lower rating as well. Previously, Gamer Legion had Ime, who made so many frags that it was enough until the finals of the major, but now the main star is in another team. Plus, Chaos has also suffered greatly. His HLTV rating has dropped to 0.9. I think the org needs to dig up some cash for a new star if they want the roster to move forward. Well, or go to the academy team and raise them yourself. In any case, without this, the team is doomed to vegetate at tier 2. As for Complexity, their latest results are downright disappointing, and Katowice is no exception. Remember how these guys started off strong right after Elige arrived? Complexity took 2nd place at IEM Sydney, then 3rd-4th place at Blast Fall Finals. It seemed that Complexity was ready to burst into tier 1, but then something went wrong. Last places at ESL Challenger Atlanta, at Elisa Masters Aspo, and at Blast Premier Spring Groups. With such results, they should be happy that they're not in the last place at Katowice. Although, in fact, the guys only beat Apex at this tournament, so there's nothing to particularly be happy about. In general, Complexity needs to come up with something. Unlike Gamer Legion, they have good players with aim, so they are simply obliged to have better results than now. The last team here is M0NESY, a strong tier 1.5 team, which this year decided to abandon tier 2 tournaments and try to concentrate exclusively on large events in order to gain a foothold in tier 1. So you understand, last year M0NESY was the leader among the top 30 teams in terms of the number of maps played in 2023, and this year their first official match was only in February in Katowice. And while this strategy doesn't pay off, the guys were only able to beat Cloud9 in the lower bracket, thereby throwing them out of the tournament. But I think everyone understands that gaining a foothold in tier 1 will not be easy. And now let's move on to the 7th and 8th places. Here we suddenly have Heroic and Na'Vi, and if for Heroic this is a cool result, then for Na'Vi it's a complete failure. disbanded started this year successfully, very successfully, passed the qualifiers for RMR 3.0, took first place in the Blast groups. In theory, everything was fine and the guys should have easily reached the playoffs in Katowice. True, at first it was unlucky in the first match to get caught by this little monster Donk, who scored 1.49 against Na'Vi, but in the lower bracket all the opponents were quite passable, so Na'Vi with a little difficulty beat Apex and Eternal Fire. In theory, they should have dealt with the Falcons in the same way in the match for reaching the playoffs, but Falcons had other plans. Snappy and his gang simply dismantled disbanded, especially on Mirage. Guys, what happened to Na'Vi? What do you think? Was it just bad luck, or did they manage to lose their shape? I think RMR will answer all our questions. And finally, let's talk about Heroic and why this result is very good for them. Although you yourself understand everything perfectly well, the Danish org lost the great captain in Kadian and two of their main stars, Stavn and Yabi. When Heroic announced the signing of Kixon, Nerds and Nikodos, almost no one believed in this lineup. Many people buried Heroic, but then the play-in of Katowice begins. Heroic created the first sensation and beat Astralis, with Stavn and Yabi by the way in the squad, and then they beat BIG in the match for reaching the main stage. This is already a cool result for a newly formed team that no one believed in, but this is just the beginning. Then in the very first match, Heroic ended up against G2 and gave them a tough test of strength. And honestly, if it weren't for M0NESY's phenomenal game where he scored 90 frags in a best of 3 with a 1.74 rating, G2 had every chance of losing. Well guys, and now the cherry on top. Heroic kicked out the top 1 team in the world, Vitality, from the tournament. It's just tough, truly a heroic team. Then they beat Gamer Legion on their way, and in the match for reaching the playoffs they again met with G2, but unlike the first time there was no chance. Because, you know, now Nico also joined in, scoring a 1.50 rating. And when both Nico and M0NESY are playing good, few teams can beat this duo. It's a shame for Heroic, but they seem to deserve this playoff slot more than the Falcons, for example, but this is CS and it's tough. In any case, this is a great result for the guys, and I hope that they will continue to please their fans. Well, that's all I have for today, friends. Yes, I could tell you how cool the pulls from Ants are under the leadership of Glaive, and how Spirit together with Donk destroy all the teams in their path, but I would first like to look at them in the playoffs before doing some conclusions. Thank you for watching, friends. Don't forget to leave your feedback in the comments below, and also hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm not saying goodbye for a long time. See you soon.